Air on the mainstream. We don't have too many Zergs in Europe. Now, of course, once we enter the playoffs, we see it a bit more. But in the group stages, these are quite rare. That's why we decided to go for it. In the top left side, we are looking at the main base with a man who's got some live support behind him. Our French Zerg, Stephano.
I love that they're still going. Like, when do they stop now that they've gone on for this long? And spawning over in the bottom right-hand side, it is our blue Zerg. It is SortOf.
I feel like if we would have given SortOf the heads up that Stephano was going to have people waving a flag behind him, he could have turned his green screen into a big Swedish flag. That would have been cool.
That would have been cool, yeah. But does it compare to the live, like having 2 or 3 people holding up a flag behind you the whole time by the looks of it?
We can pretend that he's sitting in front of an audience. That's what green screens are for.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, if you want to one-up me, Kev, that's fine. But no.
If he wants to one-up Stephano, he can just pretend that he's got thousands of people behind him.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think the person on the right there behind the flag can't actually see the screen, so they don't actually know when to stop waving. Oh, there they go. There they go. Oh. Good. They put on a good show, though. They put on a good show.
Yep. I mean, maybe after he wins the map, they'll go crazy again. They'll start clapping some baguettes for us. That's what they like to do in the O Gaming studio. So.
Oh, that's the thing. I thought you were being. Like funny about it being in France.
No, they always do that. Like the French casters, like Coca, Fonka, they always wave baguettes around, TKL and stuff. You've seen that, no?
This, and you're not memeing me right now?
No, mate. They love their baguettes. They even have a baguette emoji.
I mean, I know that French people love baguettes, but I didn't know, Kevin.
And you don't watch the French stream often enough, then.
I mean, I'm not French.
Neither am I, but their passion is very.
Oh, that is true. That is true. Okay, so a very, very standard opening by both of them so far. No early like 12 pool shenanigans going down. It does look like it will be just your very, very standard 3-base CVZ, which is, that's cool to see. I think this is what they're both comfortable with and good at.
Lightshed is a funny map though, right? But we do often see people make a few more links than they're supposed to. Sometimes try to get a bit creative, skip the baiting nest, go straight into roaches, but then still be aggressive of hatchery tech. And Stephano gets the best of the first little exchange here. Draws first blood, wins the Zergling micro battles, got a feel good, might get the second link too. Yep, not a bad start.
Not bad at all. Like, even though it's just 2 links, and people at home might be like, it's just 2 links, man. It's a lot of denial of scouting info. And even though Stephano doesn't have these 2 links on the other side of the map yet, SortOf definitely wanted to kind of dance around and figure out exactly what's going on much better than he did. But yeah, nice play by Stephano.
Quite a few overlords on the way, actually, for SortOf there. As he already has some free supply, and he makes 2 more. He will pick up the 2 initial links of Stephano. He's got a few more links on the way, as SortOf is just holding down the drone button at this point. But both players playing a very honest game up to this point, as we see a baiting nest on both sides.
Yeah, definitely. They're not on about skipping any corners here. And most likely these bailing nests can be used for aggression, but most likely defense. And SortOf is the first one to pop down an Evo, but they're both droning like madmen behind it all.
Stephano's definitely getting the better hand of these little link exchanges. I mean, none of that is game-winning damage, of course, but it's gotta feel good when every single time they tango a little bit, Stephano gets a slightly better outcome. As he is morphing 2 banings on the other side of the map, SortOf has an overlord that's getting awfully close towards scouting these 2 bangs, and he is going to get the heads up. But this could actually make him overreact, because he could be scared that once he sees this, there's a whole lot more happening.
Yeah, definitely could be. I mean, doesn't have a roach warren yet done or anything like that, but he is microing pretty damn decently to try and get these banelings. Oh, that one does get a few lings, but all things said and done, this is just the little trade out that I guess you do when you do have Ling Bane on the field.
Yeah. I mean, Stephano didn't really have a big number of Zerglings behind it, right? So even if he would have been able to get the best possible Baneling connections there, how much would he have really been able to get done here? I think at absolute best he gets 1 queen or 1 or 2 drones, but that's about it. 5 overlords on the way now for Stephano, as he was supply blocked temporarily by the looks of it. And he starts up +1 melee. What?
Very unusual. He's also, and then he's like, you know what? Gonna go for the armor. And he's mining so much gas as well here, Kev. Like, he's been mining quite a bit more gas than his opponent. I know SortOf kind of kept on mining it for a while. He's got the +1 attack much earlier and stuff, but Yeah, very, very unusual way of going about things. Like, this is not so normal, it feels like, anymore.
No, it seems like Stephano is going to be very aggressive with a hatchery tech. I don't think he's going to start a lair anytime soon. This scout could have been big for SortOf, but Stephano did a very good job in keeping the queen in position. Seems like SortOf is a little bit concerned though. I don't know what he saw exactly, but something tipped him off as we see multiple spine crawlers going up. And I honestly kind of like this for SortOf. I feel like this is the amount of drones that you kind of want to be ahead of your opponent. Of course, he needs to buy some time, but with the spines, the queens, the much quicker defensive reinforcements, I have a hard time believing that SortOf cannot hold here.
Yeah, especially with his timing finishing up, right? Like the +1 missile, whereas Stephano's spent a lot on that carapace, it being a more expensive upgrade in general. It's not going to come online for quite some time. He does have quite a few banelings ready, and he's getting even more here. I mean, he's really good in for it here, Kev.
Yeah, but we're going to need some magical baneling connections, but that's so hard against roaches, right? Even if the roaches would flump up, I don't know if that's going to be good enough. Stephano a little bit indecisive on whether or not he wants to go for the natural or the third. Decides to go for the third. Those are some really good baneling connections. The spine crawler is being kept alive. Good job with the queens there. I still think SortOf is going to hold, but obviously lost a little bit of the economic advantage he created for himself.
Yeah, and those banelings from the north actually crashed on all these roaches. Now they're all pretty battered and bruised as well. I mean, Stephano, he doesn't have a lair to fall back on. And actually, the drone count, after all things said and done, pretty much equal. Just SortOf has roach speed available. He's definitely ahead here.
I also love how we just had a really big battle that lasted for 30 seconds, and after it's said and done, +1 armor is done for Stephano. It's like, felt like we hit a little bit of an anti-timing there. Now, it does mean that the links are going to be a bit more feisty, and Stephano finds a queen for his efforts. He still has a little, okay, if we could trap these roaches, that'd be awesome. He's got a little army supply advantage, but I feel like this is not enough to really push the issue, unless SortOf walks himself into a trap. Like, if I'm SortOf, I'd go home. It feels like he's got no idea what's actually happening here. I don't think he should be here, Ben, against all these links that could potentially pop as well with +1 armor.
Yeah, I mean, he does have the speed advantage, right? And in his head, if he sees just roaches, he's like, all right, I got to be aggressive now. Maybe you were being too greedy with the drone count. We know that's not true, but maybe he just feels like he has to push the issue to find out exactly what's going on.
I feel like this is a way for him to potentially lose the lead, as now he is a bit out of position. Stephano's going to grab a lot of the links he had, send them to the other side of the map. It does seem that SortOf left plenty of units behind though, so I don't think he's going to take too much damage here. The game will go on, and now this is getting kind of funny, where SortOf is already well on his way to +2. You got to still kind of like the position that he's in, but we'll see if Stephano can find an opening somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, Stephano just droned up quite a bit here. 11 drones all at once, realizing, oh, I feel quite safe here. Maybe my opponent's a bit scared. SortOf popping out like 5 overlords at once here, so couldn't produce anything for some time. And he's holding down the roach button. Maybe he's the one that's actually worried about what the next phase of the game is. But if this game goes on without SortOf actually adding on a drone, he is going to be behind economically, and maybe he just wants to absolutely bust him.
Maybe once +2 is done or close to finishing up, SortOf will move out again. I think at this point, I don't mind it that he's building nothing but units. I was a little bit concerned when he was out on the map, because obviously +1 doesn't do much for you anymore if the links of Stephano have +1 armor. And if those would have been able to get the wraparound, then you can have roach speed. But if they have nowhere to run, you're going to not really get a whole lot out of that advantage. At this point, it does feel that SortOf is just getting ready for a monstrous +2 attack. He's got a couple of Ravages. He's taking out a few of these Overlords. Taking away map vision. He potentially supply blocking Stephano as he almost gets another one. I mean, this is a pretty beastly army, Ben.
I mean, it's really big. And look at that time for +2. I mean, he has to wait 10 seconds to really get it going. Stephano still without speed right now, which is actually crazy, right? Like, 9 minutes into this game, but I guess the start of the game makes sense. Oh my goodness, he ate those.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you get, I guess, when you don't have zero roach speed. It's a little bit harder to avoid those corrosive balls. SortOf picks up one of the queens here, gets himself in a pretty sweet spot. And poor Stephano, his roaches indeed feel so slow. And it's going to make it so hard to avoid these Ravages. I got to say, 2 Ravages, a little bit too exposed on the left side there. SortOf maybe making this a little bit harder than it should be, but he's got a little upgrade advantage. And I feel like with the reinforcements, he should still be fine. Even though it's not the prettiest fight I've ever seen, I do think it's good enough for SortOf.
Yeah, he's got the numbers here, and SortOf takes a nice victory in game 1. It wasn't like super one-sided or anything. I think they both looked pretty evenly matched. It just felt like SortOf's game plan that game, he was a bit more decisive, right? Like Stephano was like, Okay, I'm going to get the Evo Chamber. I'm going to get plus melee. No, I'm going to get Carapace. Now I'm going to attack you before any of that really comes into fruition, which... Interesting choices by the Frenchman, but yeah, maybe a few of the game jitters have gone away. You know, this might have been Stephano's first game in some time. You know, who knows? Maybe the rust has been shaken off now, and we'll see what happens.
His first game against the best of 3 against Jumi the other day, perhaps, Ben? Or the first game since the ZVZ against you? It could have been. And I didn't look bad what Stephano was doing, but it sort of was just not that greedy. Like, if sort of would have gone straight up to 60 plus drones, there is a good chance that Stephano does catch him off guard. Or if sort of doesn't have those 2 spine crawlers, they definitely bought a bit of time for him and soaked up some damage too. Maybe then it could have gone Stephano's way, but it kind of just felt that sort of expected that something among these lines was coming, and he was just ready to receive it.
You know what was actually, like, I'd love to go back over that game just to see from SortOf's position only, because I felt that Stephano did a pretty good job of not revealing what he was doing, whereas SortOf was like, okay, here's 2 spines. I'm going to put it in this position. I felt the spine at the natural was really good as well, because that made it so hard to try and bust anything down. Because, yeah, that fight, without those spines and without SortOf having the awareness to know what was going on, yeah, it could have been a very different game. Second game, though, getting into 2K Atmosphere, going at it on 2 pretty darn standard maps here. I do wonder what they're both going to bring to the table on this one.
Yeah, I mean, this is a map where if you want to go for +1 melee, I think it's a bit more doable. There are more different paths. It's slightly bigger than Lightshade, or at least it feels bigger. And it feels like there's maybe more room for these well-upgraded Zerglings to run around and find the damage that you're looking for. For now, we are looking at the main base of our Swedish Zerg, who has taken a 1-0 lead into this best of 3. It is SortOf.
And spawning over in the bottom left, he almost needs no introduction. It is the legend from France. It is Stephano.
Just remember that Stephano officially retired like 7 years ago, didn't he?
Yeah, for the first time. In fact, yeah, so it's WCS, and it was was it against MVP in the? No, it was the season afterwards, right?
Yeah. Lucy, didn't he lose against Lucy? No, that's something else. But I do remember that he did his best in a ZVT series, and then he said, I did my best, but this game is just not for me anymore. And then 7 years later, we are still casting him, and he's still just consistently qualifying for the DreamHack Masters Europe, the top 32. And we often talk about how high the level is in Europe and how many good players we have in Europe. It really just goes to show how much natural raw talent that man has, because we know that he doesn't work as hard as a lot of the other guys out there, but he still has the skills to at least keep up and at least be competitive.
You know, when you said Lucifron, even though I know Lucifron retired fairly early on, for some reason my head also jumped to Lucifron, which is kind of weird. Maybe there was some little surge comeback from him or something along those lines, but yeah, I mean, Stephano, absolute legend. But got to give a SortOf credit in that first game. There's a lot of hurdles that he might not have jumped over, or a lot of rocks on the road that he might have slipped on, but didn't miss a beat, actually. And it is nice to see SortOf just push out a pretty damn good performance, because, yeah, it looked easier than it was to do, and that's purely because he actually made a lot of right calls.
I mean, I think the main reason why we both thought of Lucifron, even though you're right, I think it was one of the Korean Terrans, is that in the beginning of StarCraft 2 in Wings of Liberty, like once the very initial meta had settled, Lucy and Stephano were so dominant in Europe, and they would often meet in the finals of our Go for StarCraft 2 back then, the weekly tournament. It's basically the same as the European weekly we have now every Monday night, and Stephano against Lucifron was just always fireworks, man. They were both so good, and at one point it really felt that they were by far and away the best 2 European players until other people started to rise up, and maybe Lucy fell off a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Lucy was obviously amazing. It's what a history we have. And okay, there are some trends happening in this game that happened in the previous one. SortOf taking the more forward triangular base, whereas Stephano more happy to be the one sitting back a little bit, taking the third base along the edge of the map, I suppose. Do you think this is indicative of how they wanted to play? Because Stephano was the one being the aggressor early on.
Yeah, it's like indeed the second time in a row that they are kind of going for it. I don't know. I feel like Stephano, we take a big risk when we try to overanalyze things that Stephano does. Because you can ask him about him and he'll be like, I don't know, just did it. That's what I always do. haven't thought about it. Like, he just kind of does, and he relies on his mechanics, and he knows that he can always spend his money and make some plays happen. SortOf probably has a much better idea on why he prefers taking this base. We'll see if it actually goes somewhere a minute or two from here or not.
Yeah, very similar build from SortOf this game, getting the Evo around the same time as well. It looks like he's just got a safe build planned out here where he's like, all right, we can take fights, we can make something happen. Oh my goodness, that was a big connection.
Yeah, that was a little bigger than it's supposed to be. It shouldn't end the game by any means because obviously SortOf has been building mostly drones. It's also a bit sloppy there. I don't know how many Zerglings we got, but it felt like it was nowhere near the same. Good job here by SortOf, splitting off just one Zergling from the rest of the pack, trying to get a connection. Stephano now perhaps panicking a little bit, making 22 Zerglings, realizing that he has lost a few too many links on the other side of the map. You don't want to lose any queens here if you don't have to. Stephano didn't really try to save that one. He may actually end up losing a second queen too, even though all these links should be ready now. But I mean, this is going from bad to worse, man. Losing 2 queens and being forced to make this many Zerglings while not getting anything done on the other side of the map. You can't be too happy with this if you're Stephano.
No, you cannot. You're absolutely right. Like, not just the drone count being kind of hit a little bit here, but like, if we look at the tech behind it all as well, like having 2 queens dead, that's literally 1 hatch available for like inject and stuff. And Stephano, he's looking to deal counter damage, and he has to deal damage, which he will start off with a queen kill, or will he? Oh, a bit of dancing, but he will get it, and a few drones are going to fall as well.
It's quite a bit more than just a queen kill, actually. You get the drones, you force out a couple of extra units, and Stephano also has a couple of banelings hidden around the corner that are going to push these links away. Can Stephano potentially get the hatchery? I mean, that seems like a stretch, but it is starting to drop dangerously low. We can use the banelings on the hatchery too. Stephano is going to get the hatchery. Well, didn't see that one coming, Benny.
I absolutely didn't either. And all of a sudden, it's kind of been flipped on its head a little bit because, yeah, SortOf absolutely did not plan, like in any way, shape or form, losing his third. And I just saw a massive sigh from him as well in the webcam, meaning like, wow, he feels under pressure. And like from the start of the game, I thought, oh man, this is going to be over in like just a few minutes here and in SortOf's favor. But wow, what a comeback.
Felt that SortOf got a little bit carried away by how well he was doing and just holding down the drone button, and suddenly like, uh-oh, I actually saw him make all these units and had 0 defensive banelings. I think if SortOf had 1 or 2 defensive banelings there, Stephano has to be so much more careful and methodical about an attack. It just takes time, and once time goes by, obviously SortOf should be able to crank out 1 or 2 roaches, and he probably would have been fine. Maybe could have put the queen in a slightly more defensive position, but well done by Stephano. It felt like there really wasn't too much of a window to deal damage, but he found all the damage. He even got the headshot.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Both of them kind of mirroring each other at this point as well, throwing down the second Evos and stuff, realizing the game's probably not going to end anytime soon. So getting that armor upgrade will be good, and then going into the +2 as well, which we see both of them opting for very soon, probably with that second Evo at least. But Stephano eked out a little bit of a drone lead initially for a little bit of time and was mining more with that third base being up. But yeah, by no means over whatsoever. SortOf catching up on that drone lead.
Yep, SortOf is going to have a little economic advantage, but if Stephano just holds down the roach button, this game he will actually have roach speed a lot quicker, so he can also avoid corrosive vials a little bit better. I really do feel that there should be a solid window for Stephano to attack.
I'm sorry to say that I'm sad that the camera went away. Stephano actually did something Warcraft 3-esque there with the Changeling. He blocked the Queen from being able to shoot the Overseer, keeping it alive, which then SortOf realized quite quickly, killed the Changeling, tried to snipe it, but the Overseer got away. Cute little microplay.
Yeah, with 2 HP as well, so it actually made the difference.
Yeah. Alrighty, both taking a 4th, and they're going to end up with the same kind of setup here. SortOf's upgrades are further along, which we'll keep tabs on whether that comes into play or not. But yeah, nice and even game.
Yep. I mean, it feels like Stephano was just waiting for his upgrades to finish up because he really hasn't built a drone in the last 2 or almost 3 minutes. Building nothing but roaches should have a little army advantage. SortOf does have 4 Ravages already. That's obviously quite nice. Ravages are very good in not just the damage, but also spacing out, maybe holding a choke point. Trying to get an Overlord here and doesn't quite get it. A couple of banelings as well for SortOf. Whoa, those banelings are morphing in the main base of Stephano. I completely missed that, but this could actually deal quite a bit of economic damage.
Especially if Stephano's forgot about it, because those came in. I don't think... Oh, he's going for 2 mineral lines at once. Well, this just got chaotic, actually. And wow, no reaction whatsoever. And oh my goodness. That is not what you want.
That just feels like Stephano, in a weird way, is somewhat all in. He really needs to find damage. There are a couple of fights happening around the map. We are taking a look at the bigger fight on the top side. You really want to protect these Ravagers, because those are the most expensive units. Stephano lands a couple of these balls. So that's lovely, but safe to say that he needs a bit more. He is somewhat winning the skirmish on the right side of the map, but doesn't quite have the overwhelming numbers to really push the issue.
No, and we look at that income tab as well. Like, it's actually really bad for Stephano, losing that many drones to that point in the game. Like, he wanted to keep the foot on the pedal from now on. And the thing is, that he's out of gas almost at this point.
It's the bright side, though, Ben, is that he's going to be able to max out on quite a bit of a bigger army. He sort of has way more drones right now, so if Stephano is able to get a few more roaches out, he is going to have a nice little army supply advantage. And if he's already on the other side of the map, maybe that's good enough. I mean, look at the amount of Ravagers that Stephano has here. 12. How do you engage an army of 12? SortOf is counterattacking and will probably find quite a bit of damage. But if I was SortOf, I'd worry about this army at home.
Yeah, look at the drone count. It's falling as well for SortOf, and quite a lot of reinforcements are coming in here. But I think these roaches, they're going to get so much damage done, right? And wow, I mean, this is not the kind of game I thought we'd be casting here, but they're both going at it neck and neck here. I think SortOf is doing a really good job of buying time and avoiding the biles and such, but we'll see.
Yeah, if he can get on top of these Ravagers and clean them up one time, it's going to be good enough, but I really don't know if he can. If I was SortOf, I would actually bring my units home at this point. He has done all the damage he needs to. He loses the Roach Warren, which means from here on out, we're going to have to reinforce with Zerglings, maybe a couple of Banelings, SortOf bring home these Roaches. He has a couple of Roaches coming in from the back, and they do get on top of the Ravagers. It does feel that Stephano's army supply is dwindling at a rapid pace, but can SortOf actually clean this up?
I don't know, Kevin. Look at the supplies. It's actually ridiculously close. So many Ravagers still alive for Stephano, but oh my goodness. I mean, SortOf hasn't been able to make a unit for like the past minute or something, but he will clean this up, and he has a massive supply lead and a lot of a bank once this Roach Warren is finished.
Yep, and he took out the hatchery as well. He didn't just kill drones on the bottom side of the map. He took out one of the hatcheries. Now, Stephano does have his own triangle expand, and of course, Stephano took out one expand as well. But if SortOf just gets to spend this bank, well, he's going to enjoy a 40 or 50 army supply advantage. That got really close, but in the end, it feels like SortOf handled it in an excellent manner, brought the units home just in time.